This is Feminist Wellness, and I'm your host, nurse practitioner, functional medicine expert, and life coach, Victoria Albina. I'll show you how to get unstuck, drop the anxiety, perfectionism, and codependency so you can live from your beautiful heart. Welcome, my love. Let's get started. Hello, my love. I hope this finds you doing so well. This week, we're going to play a game called Let's See If You Can Guess Today's Topic. And I'm going to bet that the process is going to be pretty darn cringy for many of us as we see ourselves in the following statements. So let's start with a work context. Hey, I finished that report you asked for. I know I had a bit of a delay because my computer was acting up, and then I had to do these other tasks during lunch, and then I got all caught up with another project I didn't anticipate, and then I was almost done when Angela, she sits behind me, her dog died, and so she got this phone call, and she was really disturbed and really upset. I mean, obviously her dog died, and I talked to her about it a bunch, but anyway, so I hope it's okay that I'm just now getting it to you. I really tried my best, and I'm sorry if it's not up to your expectations. I'm sure it's nowhere near good enough, but I really put a lot of myself into it and worked really hard on it. I stayed late several nights. Anyway, just let me know if you totally hate it and want me to rewrite it. Okay, that one was extra. We're starting extra, folks. Example 2. Hey, I thought maybe we could hang out this weekend if that works for you. I mean, I know you're probably busy and you probably have other plans. I totally understand if you can't, but I just thought it might be nice to catch up since we haven't seen each other in a while. But seriously, if it's not a good time or if you're not interested or you totally think I'm boring, that's totally fine. Just don't even worry about it. Example 3. Hey, I bought this new outfit and I wasn't sure if it looks good on me. I mean, it's not super expensive or anything, and it was on sale, but I wanted your opinion, just to get an idea of whether you think I should keep it or return it, or does it even look good on me? Does it flatter me? I don't even know. Are you even available? Could you just do you mind if I slip it on real quick? Example 4. Hey, so I decided to change my major. I know it might seem sudden, but I did research. I talked to my advisor and I talked to my roommates, a couple of different professors. And I really actually I did a lot of research, and I totally get that you might think it is risky or that I should have stuck with my original plan, but it just it wasn't working for me. It just didn't feel fulfilling. It just wasn't really what I wanted to do. And I just wanted to let you know both that I'm doing this, that I'm changing my major, but also that I have thought about it a lot. And I do believe that this is the right decision for me, even though I totally imagine and understand if you have concerns or doubts or worries or whatever, that totally makes sense. I get that. Example 5. Hey, I'm really sorry for not responding to your text right away. I know you probably needed an answer quickly, and I just should have been more attentive to my phone. I was doing some errands and I was trying to get the baby fed and get dinner ready. And then I got caught up in a meeting and I totally lost track of time. And I understand if you're frustrated, I'll make sure to be more responsive in the future. I'm so sorry. Oh my God, I'm the worst. And finally, example 6. Whew. And this one can be such a doozy for us because it's about directly addressing someone else's behavior, setting a boundary, asking for a change in behavior. All of those moments can get particularly sticky. Hey, so I realized that you were using my food that was in the communal fridge, and I had labeled it. I put a piece of duct tape on it. It had my name on it. It said Maria Victoria, and I saw you using it, but I'd really like to ask that you don't use it because we're in grad school and I'm on this budget and I'm really trying to stick to it. And so I'm just being really thoughtful about what I spend my money on and how I use things. And I really kind of plan out my meals and think a lot about food and money and really just I don't know, I really want to not have other people eat my food if that's okay with you. So I would just really appreciate it if you would just not eat my food and just leave it in the fridge when you see it. And I know we all get hungry, right? I was oh, I want a snack, but really, please try not to eat my food. That'd just be really great. Thank you. So, did you guess it? That's right. This week, we are talking about the admittedly super cringe feeling experience of overexplaining oneself. And it actually felt it felt super cringy and weird and like in my body to even like say those phrases out loud, right? Like largely because I used to do that. And because it's a me that I have grown so much from being. I used to really overexplain myself all of the time. And now that I have such a more streamlined, but like also such a more grounded sense of self that I no longer feel the need to do it or the desire to do it, it feels really weird in my body. Oh, it's such an emotional outsourcing favesy, that over-explaining. And so today we're going to delve into some common origin stories, talk about some of the science behind it, how it affects our nervous system, and how to begin to liberate ourselves and support others to break free from this pattern. So, my loves, let's start, as we are wont to do around here, by understanding why folks with emotional outsourcing habits, us mammals with codependent, perfectionist, and people-pleasing ways of surviving and thriving, often find ourselves all wrapped up in the cycle of over-explanation. At its heart, it's a coping mechanism rooted in the core human need for validation and approval. To be liked by the herd, because we are no fool. And we know that the mammals most liked by the collective are those that will be saved when the lions and marauders come to destroy the village, right? Right. So we seek to be understood because we know that it's safer. And sometimes we over-explain because we have a history of feeling chronically unsafe that we are attempting to make up for. See, to explain ourselves is often loving, kind, and makes sense. To let those in our lives know where we're coming from, what our truth is, why we did what we did, and how we're feeling. It's okay and often important to explain ourselves to our people. And we cross the line into over-explaining when we thrust excessive details on others, generally in an attempt to anticipate and avoid potential criticisms, to unwittingly attempt to manipulate others' feelings, and to seek validation because we don't believe we can validate ourselves. Explaining is part of healthy relating, and over-explaining is something we do to try to manage our anxiety around who and what we are and our capacity to be ourselves in the world in a safe way. So, how did we end up here doing this thing so often and on such deep autopilot that we probably don't even notice it? As is often the case with human habit, it starts when we're kiddos, teens, young adults, when your brain is forming its understanding of you and the world. If you don't feel understood, or like your thoughts, experiences, needs, wants truly matter, you're going to learn to do whatever you need to do to get heard, especially if you felt invalidated or ignored. If a more needy sibling or parent got the attention that your growing self needed. If a parent was emotionally mature, like we talked about in episode 167, or just emotionally vacant, like there but not present in a really real way, you may have learned to believe that you need to earn being heard, believed, trusted, listened to. I felt like I had to tell fantastical stories to be heard. Felt like I always had to justify and over-explain pretty much everything. And I can see where that habit arose from not feeling like my parents were emotionally present when I was a kiddo, while also having two physically present parents, food, shelter, classes, summer camp, etc. Emotionally, kind of felt like I was on my own. I also grew up in a household where judgment and criticism were pretty much the norm. And my kiddo brain learned to over-explain as a defense mechanism, with the goal of preemptively addressing any potential criticism or rejection that might, and I felt like was likely to, come my way. The underlying belief in this habit is that if we explain ourselves thoroughly, we can avoid judgment and can maintain the fragile balance of external approval that we believe we need in order to survive as folks with emotional outsourcing habits. Nerd alert, my darling. What's happening in the nervous system that leads to over-explaining, and what does it do to the nervous system? Why, I thought you'd never ask. Our nervous system has a remarkable ability to adapt to our environment and to dictate future and current reactions to life based on past experience, with a constant goal of maintaining social engagement, right? Being connected with the village, with your social milieu, while also being ready to hit that old amygdala alarm when your brain and your nervous system perceives a threat that could lead to danger. And when it hits the amygdala alarm, that leads you to freak out and hopefully evade danger. Pretty smart, right? Overexplanation is often linked to a hypoactive social engagement system. And that's a topic that deserves its own show, so that's coming soon. And it is linked to a very responsive, some might say hair trigger, sympathetic nervous system that is keenly attuned to possible rejection and really takes it to 10 when it feels slighted or ignored. And this setup can come from repeated experiences of actually seeking approval or stating your needs and experiences and either actually being rejected or can be part of what's called rejection sensitivity. And I'm just putting a little caveat hat tip to my ADHD fam out there. Rejection sensitivity is a big one for us. Rejection hits really different in our brains, and we'll talk about that in a whole future episode too, because it also deserves its own thing. But I just want to caveat rejection sensitivity is a huge thing for us. And so overexplanationing, also a huge thing. So that said, that put aside, yeah? Not like in a dismissive way, obvi. I'm not dismissing my own brain. I'm just saying, let's get back on topic. Oh, I love my brain superpower and how easily I go sideways, but I always come back. Okay. So you're a kid, you get rejected, you don't get paid attention to, you don't get attuned to, right? And so then in the future, fight or flight mode is going to get activated around the perceived threat, right? You haven't even gotten ignored or not believed. Your body's just worried. Your nervous system is worried that you won't be accepted or validated. That the scariness of not belonging to the village, to the collective, that's going to happen again. And so instead of letting that potential scariness happen, your brilliant body and nervous system develop this coping strategy of overexplaining as a way to attempt to control the perceptions of others, as a way to attempt to soothe your heightened anxiety. Meanwhile, when you start over-explaining, your body might be signaling a lack of safety in the social interaction. And so your ventral vagal complex, which is responsible for promoting social engagement, and we talked all about that in episode 174 if you're new to nervous system language, that ventral vagal safe and social complex might be inhibited due to the perceived risk of rejection, which again just further jacks up your sympathetic nervous system, leading to heightened stress and anxiety, leading to you wanting to over-explain. Quite the morass, isn't it? It's like this catch-22 zero-sum game hot mess. You see, my nerds, the prefrontal cortex, the thinking and executive function fancy pants part of your brain, gets activated as you meticulously over-explain yourself. Simultaneously, the amygdala, the emotional center in charge of fear and threats and freak out, goes into action because of the perceived threat of potentially not being understood or accepted. This dual activation within the nervous system and the brain creates a cognitive dissonance, a struggle between the need for rational communication and the emotional charge of insecurity, which leads you to ramble and to over-explain and to often do it really, really fast. This push-pull dynamic leads to a cascade of stress hormones being released, including cortisol and adrenaline. And as we talk so much about here, when this is your chronic experience of life, this stress hormone slurry can contribute to burnout, anxiety, and downstream physical health issues, from thyroid issues to reproductive issues to irritable bowel syndrome, and so much more, as your nervous system spends less and less time in ventral vagal and more time dysregulated. So why on earth do we do this? To be real, it does provide a momentary, super short-term sense of relief from the discomfort of vulnerability. By offering exhaustive explanations, we feel like we are exerting and asserting control over how we're perceived. And as all of us who do this know, this protective shell, it's fragile and temporary. And the whole experience perpetuates the belief that one's self-worth is contingent on external validation, thereby reinforcing the very codependent and emotional outsourcing cycles we're trying to escape over here. Furthermore, this habit hinders authentic self-expression because you're rarely just being your imperfect and messy self and owning it. Instead, you're jockeying to be seen how you think the other person wants to see you, and so you're not being you. This habit impedes the development of healthy boundaries because you're most often outside of yourself, performing your identity and wanting approval instead of saying what does and doesn't work for you. And over-explaining is generally bedfellows with over-functioning, which means, in short, that you do way too much for everyone else to try to gain their approval instead of doing what is best for you. And as always, the constant need for external approval diverts energy away from self-discovery and healing because you're focused on them and not on you. While over-explanation generally arises from the intention of preventing misunderstandings, it ironically often leads to both confusion and emotional distance. Others might perceive this behavior as insecurity, insincerity, or lack of confidence, which can hinder genuine connection. Over-explanation can be overwhelming for the receiver, too. It floods conversations with unnecessary information, making it difficult for others to truly engage with you, which can lead to frustration and distance in relationships, ironically pushing away the very connections you're trying to preserve. There's someone in my life who does this in a way really different than the examples I shared. Hers sounds like giving these minute-by-minute details of everything she's been up to in the day, in a way sort of justifying her existence, right? And then I did all the kids' wash up, and then I did the dishes, and then I cooked a pie, and then I made lunches, and every phone call with her is this litany, really, of the tasks and the chores and the doing she's gotten done. And I see that kind of over-explaining as a way to subconsciously, of course, create more distance between us, right? Like as a buffer, lest I ask any real questions about real things like, hey, darling, how's your heart? How's your spirit? How's the feeling of being you in the world? All things I don't believe that this person who I love so much currently has the capacity to sit with, to be with, to really look at right in the snout. And so she tells me the minute by minute, blow by blow of her day, justifying each and every little thing she's done, leaving little to no room, number one, for her to hear about me, and definitely no room for me to actually hear about her. So when she calls, if I don't have an hour to listen to her monologue, I just don't answer the phone. And so this habit of over-explaining has really, truly put space between us because there is no space in the conversation for truth, for realness, for actual heart-to-heart connection, when all I'm getting is over-explanation. So, how can we stop this cycle? Well, it begins with cultivating self-awareness. You need to see the pattern to be able to change it, right? So as always, we start with the pause, with taking a breath, connecting in with ourselves in the present moment, perhaps doing a little body scan to check in with your body and ground yourself in the here and now before responding or reacting. That can make a huge, huge, huge difference and can really begin to build your capacity to come at life from ventral vagal. And to do that, we need to cultivate that intentional pause, my darling, as a powerful way to begin to find more nervous system regulation throughout your day. Eventually, the goal of all of this work of stepping out of emotional outsourcing is to learn to value our own thoughts, feelings, and lived experience independent of external validation. Right? To say, I matter because I matter to me. My day, my time, my path, my process, it matters because it matters to me. And that work starts with loving awareness and compassion for the you that you are today. So my love, if you're hearing yourself throughout this whole episode, pause before you get mean to you. And remember that the part of you that is over-explaining habitually is doing it for a really smart reason. It's doing it from self-love and self-care in an attempt to keep you from dying. So compassion and care, curiosity, right? The 3 C's we talk about: compassion, curiosity, and care for you and all of your parts. It's the only place to start. And while you're doing that important long-term nervous system regulation and self-love work, the work we do in Anchored, my 6-month program, which we're starting up again in 2024, here are some tips and examples of how to practice more concise and direct communication. 1, identify your key points and focus on the main points you want to convey. Keep in mind that not every detail is necessary for effective communication, and often more is less, and less is definitely more. 2, practice self-validation. Remind yourself that your thoughts and opinions are valid without needing to justify them extensively. Now, we're not into that gaslighting, BSing ourselves around here. You may not believe that your thoughts and opinions are valid, and I want to invite you to bridge to it. This is a key skill that we learn in the Somatic Studio at my 12-week program and in Anchored, my 6-month program, is bridging. So if you don't believe yet that your thoughts and opinions are valid, perhaps try on, I believe that it's possible that my thoughts and opinions are maybe valid. Right? Create a little space between you and that belief, and slowly over time, take out one filler word at a time until you truly are very slowly coming to believe that you're worth listening to, which I'll tell you, I believe for sure. 3, use I statements. Express your thoughts and feelings from your own experience. It can really help to take ownership of your perspective and help make your communication more direct and effective. 4, be clear and specific. Convey your message clearly. Avoid unnecessary tangents, says the captain of the good ship Tangent. I mean, girl, come on, please. I mean, Tangent is my actual legal middle name. My parents don't know. I haven't let them know yet, but I did legally change it to Tangent. I joke, right? And when I need to let someone know a thing, I'm clear, I'm specific, I'm direct. I don't go off on the tangents. I know when to use them and when I can allow my brain to do that because I trust myself that I know when and where to do that. So as you're practicing not over-explaining, stick to the facts, ma'am. 5, set boundaries. And we've talked about this in a million different ways in pretty much every episode. Episode 5 and episode 41 specifically get into how to set boundaries and talking all about boundaries. And I will be doing a webinar about boundaries in the coming months. So if you're not on my email list, drop a line to info@victoriaalbina.com. Ask them to get on the mailing list so you'll hear all about that free boundaries webinar. But okay, 5, breathe and pause. When you feel the urge to over-explain, take a slow, deep breath in and a long, slow out. And pause before responding. This not only gives you a moment to gather your thoughts and to respond more concisely, but it also does what? That's right. Brings you back into ventral vagal. That's where your brain works most bestly. Get to there when you're working to break this habit. 6, rehearse in advance. If you know you'll be discussing a topic where you tend to over-explain or might get anxious and might want to, do the thing, practice your response in advance to make sure it's clear and succinct. Consider even talking it out with a friend or loved one. Share what you intend to say with them and get their feedback. Make sure, of course, that this is someone you love and trust and care about. Yeah? Someone whose feedback you actually want. And finally, 7, practice active listening. Often we are rehearsing what we are going to say back while someone else is talking, which takes us completely out of presence, takes us into sympathetic activation, takes us out of ventral vagal, out of social engagement, out of connection, and takes us out of actually being with the other person. So then when it's our turn to talk, all we've been doing is thinking and thinking and thinking and thinking instead of actually being. So give others the space to express themselves. Listen actively and respond directly to their points without excessive elaboration. Trust yourself to listen, breathe, response. Listen, breathe, response. And in that process, stop that cycle of needing to say way too much when it's really not to your benefit. I know, it's to your inner child's benefit. Your nervous system has historically thought it's to your benefit, but you know now it's just not. So you get to break that habit. So let's look at some examples. We'll look at several examples, and I'll share the overexplaining and then a more direct way to say what it is you want to say. Now, for those of you who have been over-explaining and come from over-explainers, and this is just like what you think is normal, the more succinct or direct version may sound like a little too New York, like a little too cut to the chase. I want to remind you that tone is really important, and so that you can use a gentle, loving, kind, direct tone along with fewer words to let someone know that you're coming with love here, right? Like you're coming with care. You're not being rude. You're not being a jerk. You're not being a schmuck. Like you're just being direct, right? So let's try these on. So example one is in a work context. So the over-explained version might sound like, I wanted to provide you with an update on the project. So you see, I encountered a bit of a challenge earlier this week. It wasn't exactly expected, and I did do my best to troubleshoot it. After some research, I found a solution that seemed to work, but it did take some time, and I know time is valuable, and you've been waiting for this, and I truly apologize for any inconvenience this may have caused, and I really did do my best, and overall, I would say that the project, on and on. And so the direct version sounds like, hey, I encountered a challenge with the project earlier this week. I researched, I found a solution. It took some time. The issue is resolved now, and you will have the project on your desk by, and give a reasonable deadline. Do you see how that just cuts to the proverbial chase? Lets the other person know exactly what's up. Lets them know as well that you respect and honor them. Like, hey, this got effed up and I needed some time. I took the time. I did fix it. Right? But without going into the kind of detail that makes it sound like you need to justify an otherwise completely normal process. Example 2 in a social context. So hark back to the example I started this episode with. I was wondering if you might be interested in getting together this weekend. I know we both have busy schedules. I don't want to impose or anything. I just thought it would be nice to catch up on and on. The more direct version. Would you like to hang out this weekend and catch up? I'd really enjoy it. That's a really beautiful way to let someone know you'd like to spend time with them without turning it into a thing and honestly without making it weird, right? Because what happens when you give all the over-explanationing is that your nervous system feels weird and so it projects weird energy. And remember that our nervous systems co-regulate. So when your nervous system's doing this weird energy, anxious, dance, that leads other people's nervous systems to mirror that, right? Or to feel that and experience the weirdness on a physiologic body level. They might not realize what they're feeling or why they're feeling it or what's even going on, but they'll feel it in their bodies and often can lead to a whoa, I need space kind of energy. In my personal experience, I've cut to the chase even quicker on this do you want to hang out one after I have texted someone 3 times and have not gotten a response or they've just not really followed up. I've started texting, tag, you're it. I'm here if you want to make plans. So I'm fully putting that back into their court. That one's not about over-explaining. It's just something I started doing last year that has felt really good instead of chasing people, because I think over-explaining and chasing people are, again, also bedfellows. And right, because it is a kind of over-functioning. It's do you want to hang out? Do you want to hang out? Do you want to hang out? And I just got tired of being the one chasing people to hang out. I'm really amazing and awesome, and I'm an incredible friend. And if people want to hang out, then tag you're it. Come on, let's do it. Let's go out. Let's get a coffee. Let's go for a hike. Let's have dinner. Let's go bowling. I'm here for it. And I'm not chasing you. So, slight tangent after your girl's like, dink on tangents, but it's a useful tangent. So, example 3, seeking feedback. I've been working on this project and I wanted to get your opinion on it. I know everyone has their own expertise and I'm not trying to force my ideas on you, but I do really respect your perspective. And if you're not too busy, I thought it could be really helpful to hear your thoughts, even though I totally do understand if you're busy or not interested, just like let me know. Maybe like I could come back at a time that's better, right? On and on. So the direct version, can you give me your feedback on this project? Actually, wait, that's what I had originally thought to say, but I want to rewrite that. You ready? Are you available to give me your feedback on this project? Ooh, I love that. I think so often about availability. Like, am I available to go to dance class tonight? Am I available to do that errand for my partner? Are you available to give me feedback? I love that. Are you available? That's a good way to use that. And then example 4, apologizing. So I'm not even going to do this one, but like I'm really sorry I didn't. And then going on and on. I'm terrible. I'm bad. Like apology. I'm so sorry. Meow, 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 meow. The direct version is I apologize for the delayed response. I apologize I was unable to meet the deadline and I will get it to you by X time. I apologize that I was late to meet up with you. We talked all about this. There was a series, feels like 100,000 years ago. Was that in 2019? Who cares? A million years ago. Episode 72, 73, 74, and 75 are all about apologies. So I'll send you over there to learn all about apologies. But these days, I'm just about like, cutting to the chase. I apologize. I can imagine it made you feel. And then offering an earnest offer of repair. How can I make this better? Right? How can I make this up to you? Like, how can we do repair? Right? Because when you focus on the over-explaining how you effed up, it really can make the other person feel like their experience doesn't matter. Repair doesn't matter. What you're really being self-absorbed. That's really kind of the crux of all of this. It's so funny that I recorded this whole show and thought about this all day and like, yeah, really what's happening with over-explaining is that you're being really self-absorbed. And like, I say that with love and come on, tender ravioli, come on, with love and care, but you're focused on you and your need to tell the whole story in all this detail and not how the other person feels or not what's going on for anyone else, right? It's all about you. And that's no way to build connection, right? That's not interdependent, which is all about mutuality and reciprocity. Ooh, I can feel myself going on a tangent that needs to be another show. So let's close this one up. There was a lot here. I really want to invite you to pause, to breathe, to give yourself some love. And if someone you love and care about does this, share this episode with them. Send it right on over to them. Get consent first. See if they're available. That can sound like, hey, I heard an episode of Feminist Wellness that I think might resonate for you. Are you available to have me send it your way? Right? That could be a nice way to say that. You practice direct communication. Have love, compassion, and care for those in your life who are still circling in over explaining. Hopefully this show has given you a little more empathy for why those of us who do it, and a little more care for yourself and why you do it. And remember that brevity doesn't diminish the value of your message. It enhances its clarity and impact. I hope this show was helpful, my darling love, my perfect, tender ravioli. As we conclude this episode, please remember that breaking free from over-explaining is a transformative process that takes its time. By nurturing self-compassion, dismantling the belief that external validation defines your worth, you pave the way for more fulfilling relationships and an empowered sense of self. My darling, if you are not subscribed to the show or following it, I'd love for you to do so. And I'd also love it if you could leave a rating and a written review. It can be wicked short, but hit me up with some of those 5 stars and a couple few words to tell the world why you're enjoying Feminist Wellness and why you're coming back to listen in each and every week. When you do so, it helps improve our rating, which helps people to find the show on search. And it's a free resource I want in as many ears as possible. While you're enjoying the show, take a little screenshot, share it on social media. Make sure to tag me at Victoria Albina Wellness so I can reshare it. And I want to thank you once again for listening. My darling, let's do what we do. Gentle hand on your heart should you feel so moved. And remember, you are safe. You are held. You are loved. And when one of us heals, we help heal the world. Be well, my beauty. I'll talk to you soon. Thank you for listening to this episode of Feminist Wellness. If you want to learn more all about somatics, what the heck that word means and why it matters for your life, head on over to victoriaalbina.com/somatics webinar for a free webinar all about it. Have a beautiful day, my darling, and I'll see you next week. Ciao!